This is Harriet, Grayson, your host and producer, and today we have a really fabulous show. I mean, this is live music. We have, let me introduce it, as a klezmer music, which is that wonderful Eastern European, I call it like folk music. For any of you out there who have actually gone and seen something like Fiddler on the Roof, you'll know it was at the Goodspeed not too long ago. You know you can hear this kind of wonderful music. So let me introduce the leader of the band. Roz, why don't you tell us a little bit about the band, a little bit about our musicians behind.
Fantastic. Well, we've played throughout Eastern Connecticut. We've played throughout Connecticut. We've actually even gone to Massachusetts. Klez is from the klezmer music. Menschen, well, Mensch is a good soul, a good person. And we are good souls throughout the entire Eastern Connecticut. We have friends from Norwich, New London, Mystic, Groton, Pawcatuck, and Waterford, all throughout making up this KLEZMENSCHEN group.
Okay, great, great. So tell us a little bit about sort of like the history of klezmer music and you know, kind of where it came from. You have some very specific kinds of instruments that you use for this kind of music. Can you tell us a little bit about that? So kind of give us a little musical tour.
Good. All right, I'll refer to our historian. So, Faye.
Yes, I would be happy to talk about this probably for too long, but klezmer music did begin as the folk music of Eastern Europe. It's the original fusion music. It's where Balkan met Eastern Europe, Poland, Russia. The musicians were Jewish, they were gypsies, they were Russians, Poles, people from the Balkans, and when they got together, they played the music, the fusion of these became klezmer. The original klezmer instruments tended to be ones that people could play while marching around. Clarinet, little snare drum, cymbal, sometimes flute, and then eventually the accordion. But when klezmer came to America, klezmer became a kind of jazz. In fact, it's sometimes called Jewish jazz. And so the instruments of jazz, for instance, the saxophone, were added early on, and sometimes a string bass. I'm playing keyboard, which is not historical, but it's standing in for the bowed string bass, double bass. And fiddles were perhaps the first klezmer instrument of all. As you know from Fiddler on the Roof, if there was one instrumentalist in the Eastern European shtetls or towns, it would be the fiddler. Oh, and trumpet and other brass were added to give a louder sound in America. Sometimes tuba, sometimes all the different kinds of trumpets, and trombones, another big klezmer instrument.
Great, great. So why don't we go ahead and listen to a little bit more music. So why don't you play a couple more pieces, and I'm going to be clapping and stomping, because this is the kind of stuff that you dance to, you cry to, you sing to, you laugh to. It's a very kind of emotional kind of music. And so if you're watching at home, go ahead, clap your hands, stomp your feet, smile, laugh. This is fun music.
The next one is called Noch a Bissel. Bissel is a little bit more, so Nach, we're having a little more music.
This is Yiddish, by the way. This is the sound of Eastern Europe.
So these two pieces, which were often played together as a medley, exemplify Nach a Bissel and Stiller Bolger. These were both old world tunes that came to America and were turned into jazz. Nach a Bissel, meaning just a little bit more. Stiller Bolger, Bolger was a dance from Bulgaria, a quiet dance, except it's not quiet at all. And that tune, Stiller Bolger, was recorded by Ziggy Elman in the 30s and became a hit under the title And the Angels Sing. So we'll be playing Nach a Bissel and then going into Stiller Bolger.
Okay. In the middle, you'll hear a clarinet and trumpet echoing back and forth, just like, you know, a jazz set. You know, one is echoing, you know, the other person, the same thing. They're actually going to be talking to each other.
Wonderful, wonderful. All right, let's hear it. up and dance. And if you're watching this, get up and dance and holler and scream and just enjoy this stuff, because that's the whole idea of it. Now, my mother loved this music, and so when she thought I should get a musical education, even though I was tone deaf, we started with the, actually with the accordion. I was not a good player, but she thought that would be a wonderful instrument. I could carry it around, and maybe she envisioned someday I'd be in some klezmer band. Never happened, never happened. And then I went to school, and I was influenced by this kind of music, so I took up, because they didn't have the accordion in the school orchestra, I took up the clarinet, which she also thought was a great thing. I could be singing, dancing, I could be walking in the streets. I was not a very good clarinet player either, but that was the beginning of my musical instruction that was influenced by my mother's real love of this kind of music. She coming from, well, not her directly, but certainly all her family from Eastern Europe.
Then we have something very in common, because yes, I started with the accordion, and then of course in the school band you couldn't play accordion, so I also had played clarinet.
Oh, there we go, there
but
we
again,
go.
it was our mothers who influenced us. You know, Faye and my mother and Faye's mother, they were good friends. And basically, when Faye and I will go out and do duets also, we title it songs that our mothers taught us.
Oh, good. That's wonderful. That's wonderful. So I know that in America, that there were some of the big, important musicians, band leaders in the 30s and 40s were, I think, influenced by some of this. You know, when you think about people like Benny Goodman and people like that, they, who we think about in more contemporary American music, were in fact influenced by this kind of music. I don't know whether they ever played klezmer, but you know, probably their mothers must have loved it and got their kids on the right track.
Well, many of the Jewish composers,
Yes.
many of their themes, you can hear it from the davening, the prayer, the chanting, right from the synagogue.
And certainly Benny Goodman was brought up as a klezmer clarinetist, although he also sought out classical training and merged the two when he, in a lot of his pieces. And Ziggy Elman, who was a big band leader, was a klezmer band player. And someone who's not perhaps as well known now, Mickey Katz. Mickey Katz, more known for being the father of Joel Gray, but Mickey Katz was a great klezmer band leader in the 30s and had a lot of hit records with this kind of music in the 40s and 50s.
And this was a music that, although it's attributed to Jewish Eastern European life, in fact had a kind of universal following. And I still think today, when you go out on the road, I suppose most of your audiences probably are Jewish, but they're not all. I mean, anybody can love this kind of music. You want to sing, you want to dance, you want to have a good time, right?
Of course. You know, look, when you go to New Orleans, of course, the birthplace of jazz, of course we're going to tap our foot. You're going to go out to Branson, Missouri, of course we're going to, tap our toes. Our clarinetist here, Mickey, goes to Mexico, and Mickey has played with. Want to tell us a little bit about?
I played with the Cancun Municipal Band.
The Cancun Municipal Band, can't get much more international than that. And also there are klezmer musicians you found in Mexico, right?
Yeah. Some both Jewish and non-Jewish klezmer musicians in Mexico.
Jewish and non-Jewish klezmer musicians in Mexico, and our band has both Jewish and non-Jewish musicians.
Oh, okay, all right, that's great.
Besides, I'll take a minute to just tell us about the group. We have engineers here. We have a chemistry teacher.
Okay.
I'll give you a little plug. Barry's Cleaners. Here's Barry. Okay, Barry. Project O. Are you familiar with Project?
Is that the oceanography?
You have the founder, Dr. Weiss here, of our founder. And we have our engineers from EB here. I'm a retired music teacher from the public schools. Faye is professor emeritus from the Coast Guard Academy. And we just love to play together. And we go all over. Numerous civic, charity organizations, the synagogues. We'll go off to the nursing homes, the soup kitchens.
Right. Oh, okay.
Anything, music is the universal language.
Right.
So we want to bring the joy of any type of music.
That is wonderful. So what's the next song you want to play for us?
Well, we're going to do some tunes that are straight from Eastern Europe. The first one is called Spielt mir klezmoremlach, which means play for me, klezmer musicians. Can't get much more obvious than that. And it's a tune that was collected all over Eastern Europe. It's a real folk tune. Then we're going to follow it by something called Tish Nigun. A nigun is a melody which is still done in the Hasidic tradition, and the tish was the rabbi's table where everyone would come and listen to the wisdom of the rabbi. Again, it's the kind, if you can imagine some of the scenes from Fiddler on the Roof, where Tevye says, "Rabbi, Rabbi, can you give us a blessing for the czar?" And he says, "Of course." So Tish Nigun means just that, a tune that might have been done at the rabbi's table. And the first one we're going to play will be a slow one, and then that will be followed by another nigun that is fast, and that might make people feel like getting up and dancing the polka.
Oh, okay.
So we're giving the whole range. The first one is a tune that's probably not a dance tune. A lot of these klezmer tunes came from weddings. Klezmer musicians were mostly hired to play at weddings. And there's a whole series of things. They would escort the bride and groom through the village to the altar. The first one is that kind of tune. Then you might have the lively tunes that do for dancing that you've been hearing.
Is it over? That piece?
You want one more time? 1, 2, ready, and...
Wonderful. That's what it's for, dancing, singing, and enjoying life. Why don't you take a moment and introduce for us your fellow musicians?
Okay, we have my far right here, Barry Greenhow on fiddle, Barry Weiner on flute, John Lustardi on tenor saxophone, Lenny Ashkenazi on trumpet, Mickey Weiss clarinet, and Dr. Ringo on keyboard, our vocalist, and our tambourine.
Wonderful. And yourself?
I'm Roz Etra. From Norwich, we have a few Norwichites I mentioned, New London, Groton, Mystic, and Pawcatuck. And like I said, we have the cleaners, Barry's cleaners, we have our engineers, Project O. We've also had sitting in with us, sometimes a couple of the lawyers in town, and Rabbi Astor, who's just retired from Bethel,
yes.
he has sat in with us. We've played anywhere from 125th anniversary of a synagogue in Meriden this last year. We played at the Guilford Jewish Music Festival down on the shore.
Right.
We've gone up to Massachusetts to play a wedding. We've played anniversaries. We just love to play together and bring that joy of music.
So how did you get, personally, how did you get interested in this kind of music? I mean, I know my mom liked it, but it's a big difference, a big jump from, oh yeah, let's take a few lessons to, oh yeah, let's form a band and do this.
Like I said, Faye and I, we've been playing, at the different synagogues. I'm just not tied to just one synagogue. We're a whole Jewish community here.
Right.
So I've gone down, and one day, I don't mind Barry saying this, me telling it, Barry said, boy, I would love to play with you, right? Remember that time? So we got together.
Not regretting it yet, are you?
No.
And so Barry and I played a number of venues down at Bethel. Since this, maybe 7, 8 years now, Barry and I have also played at many of the Holocaust remembrance, celebrations.
Right.
Then, there's 1, 2, oh wait, I would like to play with you. Hey, you know what? Mickey says, hey, come on. We can do this. We can get a whole band together.
Okay.
One of the first times that we played down for Rabbi Sternberg in town, we set up and he says, this isn't a band, this is a whole orchestra. At one time, our fiddler here had a couple extra fiddles, with them, and we had another, trumpet player. Sometimes we actually have Gary Buttery, famous. How do we?
One of the world's most famous tuba players.
Oh, okay.
He's in Quebec this week, so he couldn't make it.
Oh, okay.
But he has sat in with us.
What drives people to be kind of, take this kind of music? I mean, you could, an accordion, certainly all the other instruments here, you could play any kind of music. I mean, what's the driver that says, oh, I really connect with this? Well, okay, yeah, you want to kind of project and continue the traditions from maybe hundreds and hundreds of years of our ancestors.
Something that drives people culturally. The Jewish people's language is Yiddish, which is all but a dead language if you go up to the Yiddish Book Center in Amherst. Actually, if you go up a week from Sunday, there's Yidstock, which is a celebration of klezmer music up there.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, if I can just chime in on that, the Yidstock is, this will be the 4th or 5th year, fourth year. This is an entire weekend of professional klezmer musicians running from the 16th through the 20th. at the Yiddish Book Center in Massachusetts. So the klezmer revival in America, for a while, you're right, Harriet, for a while this music was really not heard very much. But the grandchildren of immigrants were reclaiming their roots in a sense, and the klezmer revival really began in the early 80s and has been going strong ever since, even in countries where there are no Jews left. There's an annual klezmer festival in Poland in which every musician there is not Jewish,
Right.
but they are reviving this music.
That's great. That's great because it would be this is a kind of a hidden treasure of a part of the world that world does not exist anymore and will never exist again.
This past year at the Cantors Assembly, the cantorial school of the Jewish Theological Seminary, their 2 graduates in January actually did their graduate studies on Jewish Yiddish music, and their whole recital was that.
Oh.
Normally, you would go to the recitals, and you would hear, the arias and the Hazanut from the synagogue music. But it was interesting how they revived all that
Right.
Yiddishkeit.
Right.
And again, my grandparents and Faye's, I'm sure a few others, they spoke Yiddish to us, but they wanted us to speak English to them.
Right. Right.
So,
So you think, in fact, that the revival of the klezmer music itself is tied to a revival and interest in Yiddish itself?
correct.
Okay.
Correct.
All right. So it's this major kind of cultural thing for a world, as I said, will never, ever, ever exist again. I mean, you go to Europe, just as you were saying, and there are no Jews, but the music kind of lives after they have been long gone. So that's very, very interesting. And when you hear people like the Poles play this kind of music, do you get the sense that they actually know where it comes from and that they're celebrating that, or they just kind of like it as kind of a Jewish jazz?
Yeah, I think it's a little of each. It's a little of each. Just like even in this country, there are many musicians who play this music but have no particular knowledge of the culture it came from.
Okay, that's great. So, what else are you going to play for us today?
All right, let's do a little, maybe like a slower dance.
Yeah, these tunes, Zemer Atik and Shirala, actually are not klezmer. They're arrangements of contemporary, that is within the last 50 years or 60 years, Hebrew, Israeli dance tunes.
Oh.
Zemer Atik is an Israeli dance, and Shirala is a typical Middle Eastern tune. So the klezmer purists wouldn't play this, but we play this because if we're going to be at a wedding or someplace like that, people get up and they dance to these tunes.
All right, we'll start with Zemar Artik, Israeli folk dance, and then when we go to Shirla, we'll be featuring our fiddler.
Okay. anybody needs someone to come to a wedding just to clap and dance, I'm available. I'm available. So it's interesting. So this is modern Israeli music that you've kind of shaped into kind of a klezmer sound. Is that how it works?
A little bit. You know, you have the typical Israeli tune, and there are arrangements, or some of us will arrange a little extra oomph here, a little schmaltz, as we call it, a little bringing out and stretching that sound back and forth.
Yes, we when we played this as a concert at the Norwich Arts Center, we had a huge dance line that were just people of all ages were linking hands and going around the room, and it was wonderful.
I mean, when you know, way back when at Ocean Beach when they had the polka festivals, you know, everybody got up and danced and just held hands and moved around. Same thing with this music.
Okay. Is this music, is klezmer music accepted in Israel? I mean, do they appreciate it as much?
Somewhat, but it's not really a big thing there. It's really only begun to, because for a long time Yiddish was not really regarded as highly in Israel. But these days, yes, again, we're several generations away from the founding. And
So why don't we do a number, Tumbalaika? Are you
Okay.
familiar with that?
All right.
So we'll bring some, the Mamalash and the Yiddish into that.
Okay.
yeah, this is a tune, again, it comes out of Russia. In fact, I once sang it in Prague, and several Russian emigres came over and embraced me and started speaking Russian, and I don't speak any Russian. And they said, but that's impossible. Tumbalaika is Russian song. No, actually, it's in Yiddish, and it's a riddle song. We'll just do the first verse of it for you, where a young man tries to decide who he should pick for his wife, and he decides to ask her some riddles. Doesn't everybody do that? Tumbala, 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 laika, tumbala, 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 laika, tumbala, laika, spiel balalaika, tumbala, laika, freilich soll sein. Steht der Bocher und es tracht und tracht die ganze Nacht. Nehmen zu nehmen und nicht verschämen, nehmen zu nehmen und nicht verschämen. Tumbala, 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 laika, tumbala, 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 laika, tumbala, laika, spiel balalaika, tumbala, laika, freilich soll sein.
So translate that for us.
Steht
Bocher.
a young bachelor stands on a hillside and thinks all day and night. Who can he take for his bride that he should not be ashamed? Where can he go for a bride that he should not be ashamed?
That's the actual lyrics.
And and then tumbalalaika, play the balalaika so that you should be freilich, joyful.
Ah, very nice, very nice. If somebody was, kind of watching this and said, "Oh, I would like to play one of these instruments and sort of learn this music," what would you offer them for advice?
Go to YouTube.
Okay, yes?
Yes, we happen to have quite a few videos on YouTube, but
Oh,
so does
okay.
everybody else.
All right, okay.
And there's even some how-to videos on there, and there's some websites that have these arrangements on them.
Okay, so that's kind of the best way for people.
KLEZMER. Google that, and hundreds and hundreds of sites.
Okay,
From,
all right.
from
so-
young to old, from Eastern Europe to right here in Groton, Connecticut.
Right, okay. Now, if people are interested in perhaps hiring you guys, it would be through your website. Is that the?
Well, they can check out our Facebook page, or they can email me. My email is up there, fayringle@hotmail.com.
Okay.
But we do have a Facebook
We do.
page.
Okay.
KLEZMENSCHEN.
KLEZMENSCHEN,
KLEZ,
which-
K-L-E-Z, mention, because we're good souls here.
Yes, mention me good person.
people.
Yes, exactly. So how did you get to that name? Did you just one day say, "Oh, that's a great
Well,
name"?
I kind of,
Made
yeah.
it up.
Yeah, it was exactly because, like I said, we're from all different synagogues in the area.
Right.
Reform, Orthodox, Conservative, and we're good friends. And then we, like I said, many of us also play with local city bands.
Okay.
Barry has been playing with the Old Lyme Town Band for a long time, and
okay.
up in Norwich when we had our Norwich City Band, I also played with that.
Oh.
Mickey plays with the Noank band that meets out of Watford.
Mystic Noah.
Mystic Noank.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
John also has played with a number of the local city bands, along with a swing band out of Groton, right here.
Okay. All right.
Lenny had played with the Mystic Noank Bank also.
Okay.
And I was just going to ring. And then the Reform Synagogue has a small band for services also. So
Oh, okay.
Guys played
Interesting. So you guys sort of did you
find each other.
You sort of found each other from all these different kinds of things that let's go and create a band. Now
Sure.
is this the actual? This is the core of the band, so it kind of gets bigger and smaller.
Oh, well, like I said, when Rabbi Astor's in town, he'll sit in. When the world famous tuba player will be
Okay.
here. We've had a couple little percussion people also. So, if you want to get your clarinet out, maybe we'll give you a few
Come
clarinet
join
lessons.
us.
Oh, you wouldn't. I mean, I think it'd be worse of it to hear me
Yeah, we
sing.
have another trumpet player who's working right down here at EB. And
That,
I would say that we're always looking for more members too.
Are
We're
you?
very inclusive, and I would say it would be great if we could add a trombone to our band.
Oh, all right.
It'd be great if we could add either electric or acoustic bass to our band.
Okay.
So
if anyone
people out
wants
there
to,
who are interested
Yes,
in
to get
joining us,
to
seek
get.
us out.
Oh, okay. All right. So there's people out there who play electric bass, or you said acoustical bass.
Yes.
either one
Okay,
or
either
a
one.
trombone.
A trombone. All right.
A
give it-
triangle player out there, maybe?
Oh, triangle.
Triangle
Why
and
not?
symbol. Yeah.
Yes. Percussionist. And when you think about the origination of some of these instruments, it was because probably they were easy and cheap for these people, I'm talking about in Eastern Europe, to obtain in terms of, why these instruments. I mean, it's the sound, but it's also the accessibility, things that could be easy for them to get.
Yeah, well, the klezmorim would go from village to village. They needed to put something in a little case and
Right,
and
and
off.
walk literally, or maybe get on a horse. But yes, exactly. So it had to be some. So it's not a grand piano,
Right.
right? And it's not a large bass.
Well, interestingly,
actually-
yes, the most traditional klezmer instrument was the baz, the double bass. There's a lot of pictures out of Eastern Europe of somebody struggling along the street carrying
Right.
a double bass.
right. But there's some things that you don't see. You don't see a cello, for example.
No, not
so
things you have to sit down to play.
Okay. All right.
But these days,
Yes.
in bands, anything goes. I mean, we have seen klezmer groups play with just about any combination of instruments.
Okay. So the driver is the kind of, would you say the driver then is the melody? What's the driver in terms of this kind of music that said, when somebody hears this, automatically they know this is this kind of music? What would
Well,
you think?
you've been hearing it throughout. It's things like that high wailing clarinet sound, that weeping sound of the fiddle. It's the fiddle that makes you cry. That very sharp cutting through of the trumpet and the flute, and melodically. And it's also that particular combination of notes in the musical scale. A lot of
Okay.
the tunes are in a particular minor mode that you'll hear.
And then you hear that talking back and forth. If you notice, some of the instruments played one little phrase, another instrument like
Right.
echoed that back and forth.
Okay.
Some of our instruments will start with the melody, and then another group will end with the melody.
Okay, so it's those fusions of these sounds in a certain kind of way, in a certain kind of musical scale that sets this apart than you'd say almost any other music out there.
Yes.
Okay, that's great. Do we have another song?
Oh, do we have another
Oh, do we
song?
have another song for you? Come on.
Okay. A Nacht in Geneden. So a Nacht is at night in the paradise.
Well, in paradise.
In paradise. Oh, paradise on earth. All
And
right.
this one features
We'll start with our
Vicky Weiss on clarinet,
and then in between we'll hear a beautiful, beautiful flute.
flute with Barry Weiner.
Wonderful, wonderful.
If you're interested in hearing a little bit more about us, or actually listening to a concert, on August 4th, we're going to be the warm-up band at the Mystic River Park
Okay.
down by the drawbridge, right before the Noank band will play at 7, we'll play at 6.
Okay,
So
very
that's
good.
a little interesting thing. If you want to think further to September, the Rotary sponsors Diversity Day
In Norwich.
in,
Norwich
in,
Rotary.
in Norwich.
Okay.
So on September 24th, a Thursday, we'll be playing down there, and I will be getting different ethnicity, groups to come.
Okay.
We have a called Mixed Blessing. They're a drumming
Okay.
circle.
Okay.
I'm going to get some Irish step dancers. We'll have Peruvian dancers. The local Indian tribes will also be performing at that
wow,
too.
that's wonderful. So this is in Norwich
That's
in September. Okay. And again, we could go to your Facebook page to check up on this information?
Yes.
Okay, good, good. So that,
Yeah, and then during the summers, a few of us will go to some local nursing homes. So anybody out there would like us to come and
entertain people?
entertain
Yeah,
the
okay.
shut-ins, we'll be more than
That's
happy
wonderful.
to do that.
That's wonderful. Do we have another piece for us?
Yes, we do.
Oh, there's no end. Wonderful, wonderful.
Well, we can play for you a traditional tune that I think everybody would know,
Okay.
Havanagilla.
Oh, all right.
In fact, some of you might have seen there's even a whole movie just devoted to this piece, explaining the origins of this piece. And it's played all over the world, and we'll be doing, we hope that people will get up and hold hands and dance.
Kick their feet and move around.
Da,
Yes.
da, 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 da.
wonderful. Now tell people about this song, because it sort of embodies a lot of stuff.
Well, it has an interesting origin. In fact, there's still an unresolved lawsuit because two different composers claim to have written it, at least now they're descendants because both of those composers are dead, right after World War I in Israel. Before there was even a state of Israel, there was Hava Nagila, which really means let us rejoice and be glad, let us go out and dance, let us go out and make happiness, the Lev Sameach, with a blithe, happy heart. The words, that is, the fight is over who composed the lyrics. The tune is an ancient Hasidic tune. It's several hundred years old. But as I said, two different families claim to have composed the lyrics to Hava Nagila.
And this was brought into this country probably in the early part of the 20th century?
Yes.
Okay. Are these American composers that are?
No, they were both Israeli, living in Israel at the time, but they had relatives in the U.S. who have their descendants. This movie about Hava Nagila even interviewed both sets of descendants who claimed it was my great-grandfather. No, it was my great-grandfather.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. So we have a few minutes left. Is there a short song that we can kind of conclude this absolutely wonderful musical presentation with?
Oseh Shalom.
Oseh Shalom. Yeah, Oseh Shalom is a great one to end with because the words come out. It's actually composed by a woman, Debbie Friedman, who unfortunately died just a few years ago. She's a woman who really revolutionized modern Jewish music, and her music is now used in many, many synagogues. It's been heard at memorial services all over the world. But this is a setting of a prayer from the liturgy that literally means, O God, who establishes peace in the heavens, grant peace to all on earth. So, Oseh Shalom.
I want to thank my guests for coming today. This has been a wonderful musical affair, and this is wonderful music. It is ancient music in the sense that it is from hundreds and hundreds of years ago, from these Eastern European, mostly Jews, who now, it's kind of caught on. It's kind of like everything else, kind of be trendy and fatty, but it's a wonderful music with deep, deep roots. Very emotional kind of music, and I encourage you all to get on their Facebook and to contact these people and have them come to some kind of event that you might be having, that you want to have something really interesting and always fun to dance to. So I absolutely welcome you to get in touch with my guests. And as always, we love to have you all visiting and watching our show. It's summertime, and enjoy everything. So I want to thank my guests again. I want to encourage you to listen to wonderful music. And this is Harriet Grayson, your host and producer of Community Culture Showcase. Have a wonderful, marvelous summer.
1, 2, 3.